Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Welcome to round one review podcast, which isn't a play-by-play sort of review at all. It's more so just talking points, and we'll go through some of the bigger talking points each and every week. Don't be alarmed if your team misses out. No doubt we'll talk about them again either during the week or next week. It's not about just getting passed through and in detail. It'll go for way too long. So it's more so just about grabbing some of these big talking points that have come out from each and every week. And we'll be on here each and every Sunday night to go through it all and talk about what's happened and our views of everything, and hopefully get you guys in the comments as well, ripping and tearing. Sorry, this was supposed to be live tonight as well, but there's been a few things that have happened which I'm about to go into, which hopefully you'll understand. So we just decided, or I personally decided tonight's not the night to go live. It'll be hopefully starting from next week. We'll get into it and get your comments live on air after weeks like this one, where I'm sure there is plenty to talk about. Shout out to our sponsor, so Caxton Street Brewing Company, major sponsor. Good look, guys. There's already 2 games there this weekend. So obviously the Broncos on Friday night, and then the Dolphins today. It was pissing down, but it looked like there was a pretty decent crowd there. So make sure you are getting down there. Let them know the League of Inches crew sent you down there. They'll look after you. Plenty of great beer on tap and some great food to go with it as well. I'll tell you now, the wings are up there with some of the best wings I've ever had. It is the go-to wing spot, in my opinion. I'll be there this Thursday. So the Parramatta versus Broncos game, I'll be heading down there with the family. So we'll go in there beforehand. So if you're around, pop on in, come and say hello. We'll have a bit of a chat about some footy and go from there. This is the hard part now about, I guess, some stuff that's happened that I do know people out there probably are aware of more than I would have originally have liked, but that's something that I can't really say too much on, out of my control. But just a bit of a future when it comes to League of Inches, the page, and I guess the podcast. So you'll notice tonight a little bit of a different view, but to be fair, it has been me and Brent a few of these shows lately, so that's okay. But some things have happened over the last little period, I guess, sort of ramped up over the last week, and sort of come to a head with a few things from me, from a personal point of view, for the page. If I'm going to be brutally honest with everyone out there, and this isn't a feel sorry for me episode at all, but sort of run out of passion and love for what I was doing now for quite some time when it came to the page, the podcast. Wasn't enjoying the late nights, wasn't enjoying the sleepless hours and lack of sleep and the like. And I used to love it. I used to love everything I do here, and going through and talking to our community every day is something that I absolutely love. And there's reasons outside of this that I will not delve into at all live on air. There's no need to, and I probably will never delve into it. From my point of view, I'm keeping it on a personal level, but there's also been some things around the podcast crew and things like that just hasn't really gone the way I would have sort of ideally liked, I guess. So moving forward, it's time to rip the Band-Aid off the fact that unfortunately, Trav will no longer be part of the League of Inches page or podcast. That's been a decision, I guess, I've made personally, and nothing against Trav at all. I absolutely appreciate everything he has done for this page and jumped on and helped make Supercoach draft competitions and the like so much better. Always up and willing to do a podcast and jump on. And without him, I don't know if the growth we've achieved was possible. I'm not too sure, but he's definitely helped and contributed a lot to the page. Unfortunately, a flow-on effect for that is the fact that Jesse's requested some time away from the content game as well, just to get his head together with a few things. As I said, there has been some things behind the scenes, and again, me personally, I will not ever get into that. I don't want to. It's not me as a person. I don't. It's not my place to do that. But I'm pretty gutted, to be fair. It's been a massive punch in the guts, and again, it's not for me, but yeah, it's tough to come on here and talk some footy, which is what I love, and this is sort of what we've started with. But yeah, that's sort of where we're going to, which obviously means, I guess, for the Supercoach listeners out there, for now, there won't be a Supercoach show, dedicated Supercoach show moving forward. What will happen is we'll basically just mention Supercoach as we go on shows, and there doesn't need to be a whole full-blooded show on it. We're going to go a little bit differently there. hoping to do just a dedicated news show with Isaac once again, which will be fantastic. We'll push things to potentially a Wednesday night when it comes to our preview of the podcast week. So still, everything will still be going ahead as normal, guys. Just the Supercoach side of the page will definitely take a back seat now, and we'll still have a few things here and there, especially on our Legends group. We'll continue to ramp that up with Supercoach content. It'll just be more to the general public. I personally I've had a couple of really nice chats with some people that I won't name over the last fortnight or so, and something that I've made fully aware of, and thanks to my partner as well, is that I've started this page as a rugby league lover, NRL lover, and I'm sort of going back to my roots a little bit now. So this is, I guess, an opportunity in a way to take the page back to sort of where I was originally with things. I was never a Supercoach player. I love the game. I think I have so much fun playing it. I get to go back now to, I guess, full focus on the NRL side of things. And I know this has probably bored a lot of you people out there, but it's very hard to balance effectively two aspects of a page sort of coming together and sort of not butting heads a lot, but it's just very hard for me personally to navigate posts and things like that, because you've got the Supercoach side that you need to get at captaincies and stuff like that, and you've got the NRL side of things where on the Thursday you've got about 4 or 5 posts to get out as well. You don't want to absolutely bombard everyone social media wise, because a lot of you will miss posts and things like that we want you to see and be engaged with, like tips and best bets and things like that. So it has become very hard. It was very tiresome. Probably wasn't myself a lot on the podcast, a lot of the faking it sort of thing. And as I said, it is very tough. Pretty hard for me. It's been a very tough weekend. I know it's been a tough weekend for the other two boys as well. So I'm not just trying to cry poor me at all here. And like I said, both have done a tremendous job. If Jesse doesn't return either, I just can't thank either of them enough. Jesse, I literally reached out to just on a random Supercoach chat, and he came on board and we established what we did. So I'm immensely proud of what we've done. A lot of it has to do with those boys, obviously. I'm immensely proud, and I guess to keep it going with an amazing team now as well that we still have at League of Inches. There's about 3 or 4 guys behind the scenes that probably most of you don't know about. Only in the Legends chat will most people will know about him. And I'm very thankful now for Brent as well, who's jumping on and doing a lot more of the podcast. And I've had a lot of really good messages and feedback about Brent over the last couple of weeks, which it sucks. Everything sucks. It's not easy to talk about. I hope the comments remain respectful and things like that as well. And please respect, I guess, my privacy at least in terms of that side of things. And that was the other embarrassing part of all this, is the fact that this is the Rugby League page. We're here to talk footy. We're here to be mates and talk some footy. I don't want to be coming on here doing these sorts of statements and like that's just not me. I don't like it. I don't never want it to be, but I think the respectful way of doing this with what they've achieved and what we've been able to achieve all together is doing it this way. So that's all I say on really the matter. I guess it's whatever they both choose to do in the future, especially I'm not too sure what Jesse will end up deciding. I've already told him I'd love him to come back, but that's on him. Trav, whatever he does in the future, I wish him all the best. I genuinely do mean that. I know a lot of you absolutely love Trav and things like that as well. So I genuinely wish you all the best, mate. Thank you very much. But I guess for now, let's get back into some footy talk. And Brent, I'll ask you your player of the week. We've got the vote up at the moment. So it's between Harry Grant, Tana Boyd, and Braden Bald-Headed Trindle.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There were some great performances over the weekend, Jolly. It's some guys there that I definitely didn't expect to put on the show that they did. But as you said, there was a couple of standout halves. Harry was fantastic up against your boys, much to your probably dismay on Thursday evening. But I'd probably at this stage they're all pretty close, but I'd probably have to give it to I guess Trindle. I think he, everything he seemed to touch turned to gold. He had his hand on a lot of it. I know there's been criticism of that in the past for the Sharkies, where Trindle has his hands on the ball a bit too much, and when it doesn't go right, that's sort of what they blame. But credit where it's due. He really led them around the park really well on the weekend. We were expecting probably a different type of Titans team to come out, but they were just absolutely ripped apart, and Trindle was a big part of that. Kicked a nice 40-20. He set up a few tries. He was just everywhere, and I think I don't know if there's superpowers in that bald head, mate, but Yeah, and again, it's probably not something I was expecting to be saying on here this evening, but yeah, probably give it a tricky. But you wouldn't be out of place giving it to any one of those three blokes for sure. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I honestly, the only reason I'm not giving this to Harry Grant is because he only played 60 odd minutes. Obviously, he came off with that injury, which apparently isn't as bad as what initially is a bad. I've heard it's just a bad cramp, but he tore Parramatta to absolute shreds. It was an absolute clinic put on by Harry Grant, and if he played the 80 or close to it, I probably would have given it to him. But that little bit of 20 minutes where I think Braden Trindle just had a game where he lasted the whole game. Like you said, the towards the back end of the game when sort of the game was filtering out a little bit, he kicked that wonderful 40-20, which got the Sharks back into momentum and scored another couple of tries on the back of it. Try, assists, tries, you name it, he was doing it. Balls on a string. It was obviously put the meme out there type thing, but it was vintage sort of Joey 05 in the Blues jersey. It honestly was like one of those performances where you sit back going, holy shit. And sort of to go back a little bit, obviously in our Legends group, guys, we are doing our Rugby League week ratings as well. There was 2 10s given this weekend, which Josh is sorting this out for us, and he sort of gave us the guidelines at the start of this weekend, and he goes, boys, I need 10 to be like max, like just, no, it's not happening much at all, but I was guilty. I was the guilty party that actually gave away 2 10s this weekend. So I just thought both Grant and Trinder were absolutely fantastic. Boyd sort of just below, in my opinion, but still a fantastic game. I just think I have to give it to Trindle. Overall, 80-minute performance. He was just too good. That bald head's got to stay now. That cannot have a single bit of hair on that glowing head again because, goodness me, it was a performance and a half. So well done. And just quickly, mate, I forgot to bring one more little point up. The magazine that we had out, the Impact magazine, I've decided because of all this sort of stuff happening and just personally myself and where I was at, I was just getting too busy, doing too much. A little one on the way, which is about 4 or 5 weeks away now. I've got to look at my time and spend it wisely. It wasn't the right time to bring something like that onto the page, which was going to be weekly. It's a lot of work, a hell of a lot of work, and I just don't have that time at the moment. So we've pushed this back now. What we'll do with the magazine moving forward is probably release it 3 times a year. One is already the preseason. That will continue. There'll be a mid-season sort of origin, mid-season sort of magazine as well. Then there'll be an end-of-season recap sort of magazine. So that's all going to happen still in the Legends group. The price has gone down to $3.99 there as well to save yourselves a bit of money reflecting the changes. But there's still a whole heap of content in there to get yourselves hands on, and it's a great way to support the page a little bit further. $3.99 per month, like a cup of coffee is costing you more, and you're drinking one of those a day. So go ahead, please support the page, and there's plenty there to get your money's worth in. That's for sure. Something else to talk about, Brent, that's really, it's been unfortunate. It's been such a big topic in the game and group chats and the like this weekend. It's the officiating. And we sort of spoke before we got on air about the fact that I've got a whole heap of notes. I've got a lot of these sort of points down and the moments that I was questioning. But I got to the point where it literally has happened pretty much every game. Some outrageous calls, and people are just fed up with it. It is the worst I've ever seen the officiating. I will go as far as saying that. And this is round one. And the thing that shocks me with this, and I'm not sure where you're at with it, we're critical. We'll be critical shortly on some of these teams and players and how they've come out round one after a massive preseason. Guess what? The referees are full time and do exactly the same thing. They go away, they do camps and stuff. They train, they do video after video. They're supposed to make calls under pressure and training methods to do that and ensure we get the best version of them. And they've come out absolutely shocking. Like I sit there and question, what have they done in the off season? Because it doesn't seem like much has happened there. It's actually gotten worse.
Mate, you nailed it. I think if you were to write down every instance of a poor, like really poor decision, we'd be here all night. And it started on Thursday night with your boys in the first half. I reckon there was at least 3 or 4 howlers in that first half. And in the modern day game, there's not much separating these high elite level teams. So for the impact that penalties can have on, the sway and the flow and the momentum in a game, we all know it. It's ridiculous. And like you say, these guys haven't just sat around on the lounge all preseason. They're supposedly out there training, doing everything they can to get better, is my understanding. They're not paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year like the players are, but they're certainly not doing too badly. So I called it out in our humour mill out of Impact just last week, Jolie, or just earlier in the week rather, with it was really poor in Vegas round, and hopefully we're not talking about it come September, October at the end of the year. But it is probably across the board for round one the worst I've ever seen. And I think the thing that doubles down on it is I've got a little bit of sympathy for the refs as they call these things live, mate. Like, the game is so quick and these things are happening in a split second. They have to make a call on the run. They get it wrong sometimes. I can deal with it. But the thing that kills me more is when the bunker reviews something and then they still can't get it right. Like, there's been now various instances already where the strips have been ruled differently to the Couchman one that we saw in the controversial Couchman one. So, again, you don't like to harp on it, mate, because it's just so good the footy's back on. But, gee whiz, if I had $1 for every time I said there was a shit call, I wouldn't have to work, I don't think, Jolie.
Just to infuriate you a little bit, I just had a quick Google on the salary of an NRL official. Full-time referees typically start at around 105K annually, but top-tier NRL referees earn over $300,000 per year. I'm sorry, but when you're earning that kind of money and you're making some of the decisions you are, it's just not on. I can only be fair because we criticise players, and it's just fair to do the same thing. And the other part of this is the fact that we're doubling down here, and the bunker is like just going, yes, sweet, no worries. And they're looking at camera angles, they're looking at things, and we're going, all right, this is going to be called this, like, for sure, it's all good. And then they're going ahead and making the clear wrong decision. I don't get it. They're supposed to have all these camera angles and all these new butte TVs in wherever they're located. We can sit there on our flat screen at home and dodgy bloody Kmart TV or whatever it is. And shout out Kmart, by the way. Jump on it as a sponsor if you want. Nothing wrong with your TVs, by the way. But when we can make these decisions, and everyone in the group chat saying the same thing, it's not like we're just sitting here, we're not trying to sit here and say we know everything. I'm saying what people are saying in these chats and stuff that we're in, and everyone's saying it. It's just, I don't get it anymore. I don't get how it's 2026, it's round one, and the biggest talking points come out of this weekend, it feels like, once again, the officials. It's just so poor. And here's PVL with his big bold plans out going to different countries and stuff like that. Like, let's stop for a second. Let's look in the backyard and let's fix some of this actual stuff that's happening and hurting and destroying the game, because you just took your game over to Vegas 2 weeks ago now, and the game of the game of the day there resulted in some very poor officiating calls. So I don't know where they want to go to, Brent, but it's just extremely poor. One other one I want to ask you about quickly. We've had a week now, or 2 weeks really, of looking at this rule. This post your 20 metres and they give a penalty away where it's just a 6 to go. Are you a fan of this decision at the moment? The fact that instead of getting a full-blown penalty, they can kick it downfield 30, 40 metres, they go again. It's literally just 6 to go, play on.
Yeah, so I guess my understanding, I guess, would be the intent behind it is to speed the game up again. So rather than having that stoppage for a penalty to, whether you decide you want to kick for touch, take a tap, you're going to take the 2, obviously, from your own half. But it brings back some of that quicker footy. So you just constantly, brings that fatigue in quicker. Teams having to defend for potentially 7, 8, 9, 10 tackles in a row instead of just the 6. Although, if there's a penalty, they kick for touch, they get a bit of a breather. So, yeah, I mean, it brings a lot more of that fatigue into it, which is it's a big factor in the game. It brings the little man back into the game. We've now seen the bench grow as well. So there's a different dynamic with that there now, which makes it interesting. Watching over the weekend, mate, I'll be completely honest. I didn't notice it heaps. Like, if I'm really honest, I didn't really. It wasn't a time where I thought, that's made a big difference to the flow of the game or the momentum for a team.
I noticed it a couple of times. That's why I brought it up.
It was something that I knew had happened, but I just didn't notice it. I didn't notice it. I'll probably keep an eye out more for it moving forward. But it just sort of slipped my mind amongst everything else, I'll be honest, Jolie. certainly something I'll keep a closer eye on, and it will be more like that footy we saw around, I think it was 2021 when Turbo had that big run where it was from behind your own 40, I think it was, and it was something like that. And they were just shredding everyone because Turbo was running through everyone. You know what I mean? It was just like repeat set after repeat set. If you end up getting a couple of those, it really adds up. So, yeah, I must admit, I didn't notice it. I didn't pick up on it live in any of the games, I'll be completely honest, but I'll be happy to hear what you reckon, mate.
Well, the only thing I noticed with it was I noticed a few times, and this is the part I don't like of this rule. There was teams doing it on purpose to slow like a play down so they could set their line up again, and then the team will sort of keep going. So I just don't like that aspect of it. Where in my eyes, it's professional fouls. Like if you're laying basically on someone falling asleep, it should be like a 10 in the bin, in my opinion. You shouldn't be doing it because you know, all right, yeah, I'm about to give a 6 again away, but they're not going to be able to march downfield. They're not going to start a set on like an hour 40 and really work in. There's a chance that they'll get to the last tackle still, and they're only on like the 30-metre line. So I just don't like that part of it. I definitely get what they're trying to achieve with it. But once again, I think the fact is the coaches and players and teams are too smart now. They're just exploiting it from the start, which is just human nature, I guess, with this sort of stuff. Coaches are just way too smart these days. But I just don't like. I don't know if the rules achieving fully what it's been set out, but it is only round one, so I guess we will look. A team that wishes they could probably just claim round one and let's just move on. Unfortunately, they've been added to the dreaded list, Brent, alongside the Gold Coast Titans, which I'm going to spare this week. I'm going to give them a little night off, the blowtorch, because the Parramatta Eels got absolutely embarrassed, got spanked by the Melbourne Storm. Now, there's a few avenues to talk about when it comes to this game, Brent. The first one I want to bring up, and I don't want to sound like a sore loser. Firstly, I want to say the Melbourne Storm were fantastic. They were a brilliant team. That second half especially, I thought they were very, very good. The first half, I don't understand what was going on here. If this was the NRL trying to basically tell Parramatta, don't ever take it and make a stance saying, don't ever take us to court again and don't make us look like fools in the general public, because not a single, I would say 70-30 went our way. I wouldn't even say 50-50. So I'm thinking there was blatant calls that just did not make sense. I want to go straight all the way back to this Hopgood sin bin to start with, because high shot, I've watched his back 1,000 times. Now, I want to start by saying I don't think the Cleary tackle, I don't think this was worse than the Cleary tackle. And I also don't think this was worse than the Crichton tackle either. But he's the one that had the sin bin, and now he's looking like he's suspended for a week. I'm not too sure where to go at when it comes to this, because we are crying out for the game to basically be as consistent as humanly possible. But it feels like we are so far away from that at this stage. It's not funny. Hopgood didn't even move to try and put on one of those hits. He literally stood there. He embraced to make a tackle. McDonald, I hope he's all well and good. It wasn't great to see, but more tripped than anything into his shoulder, which again, I know I'm a fan. I know I'm seeing this maybe from a different angle, but it just didn't make sense to me. I get the sin bin. I get it was high contact. I understand that. But the fact that then we look a week before and Crichton, who put on a much worse and deliberately had a swinging arm and collected someone high, didn't get a sin bin, didn't get a charge. It just doesn't sit well with me.
I think the fact that McDonald obviously was in La La Land played a role in this, Joel, and I believe, don't quote me, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, mate, but how the affected player is affected, like whether they're injured, knocked out, shouldn't come into it, but I reckon a lot of the time it does. So the fact that we could tell he was not in a good way, and I agree with you. I don't think there was some super ill intent from Hopgood. It was just one of those high-speed collisions. A guy only needs to fall a couple of centimetres or a couple of inches, and that thing's going completely wrong. And Hopgood copped it himself, you know what I mean? There was a lot of people thinking it was initially head-to-head contact. So it's another one of these things in our game. It's a subjective thing that these officiators are ruling, officials, let's call them officials, are ruling on, mate, live. And I think it's one of those tricky ones that, like, you're going to get it, people on each side of the camp as far as like whether they think it was right or wrong. But it's a huge momentum swing. You think for that first tackle of the game, the first set of 6 in the game, Parra then go down, and man, as it turned out, they ended up scoring first. But it ends up playing a role later as well. The boys in the middle then have to do a bit more work, and that all plays a big factor at the back end of the game. And ultimately, we did see a bit of that. But yeah, it's just so tricky, mate. And again, we just have this inconsistencies now where, mate, if you haven't gone down to your local pub and bought a ticket in the raffle, don't worry about it, because you can just turn the NRL on the weekend and you're going to get the same thing with some of these things, essentially, because I'm going to throw in the towel on trying to guess what these things are now, because I've just got absolutely no idea, brother.
Yeah, and the other thing, just quickly, Iongi was hit high and ended up getting sent for a HIA, so they can clearly acknowledge it, but it's just called play on. There's nothing after that. It's just, I don't get it. As I said, it feels like...
Well, he went off as well, right?
That's what I mean. He had a HIA, so he had to go off. Yeah. They called him off, but they just said play on, play the ball and move on. So didn't make sense. But let's go over to the Eels side of things because, mate... embarrassing is saying it lightly. This was a pathetic performance on so many aspects. Obviously, the big week and month leading up to it off the field. They had a fantastic sort of preseason where they won the preseason challenge, which the two top teams of the preseason challenge made a mockery of the competition. Why I continue to say I hate trials and I wish they didn't exist, because we didn't get a true reflection of basically anything from the trials. Once again, surprise, surprise. I don't know where to start with this one. There is a few aspects to this that I wouldn't mind talking about, but just the biggest one is just the fact that it's round one. You go to Melbourne, there was players talking about this streak and ending it, and then there was big talk about it, and you put that performance in. It was literally men against boys from very early on in that game, and the weird thing was we looked better when we were down a man attacking 13 players, and all of a sudden it was like, players got a big head from winning this preseason challenge and thought their shit don't sting and they can just go on and things will happen for them. You were versing the Melbourne Storm in round one. Nothing was going to happen after just denying them a star player. I as a fan, mate, I've just got to be honest and just say I don't get what they put in.
Yeah, mate, I think you're probably a bit harsher than I am because you do see them a lot, watch them a bit more closely and have a better understanding of the squad and all that sort of stuff. But what I would say, mate, is that first half, they still weren't out of it. At 18-4 down at halftime, and they had some ordinary calls. There was that Brian Kelly knock that was clearly back. There was a line ball forward pass. If ever there's a line ball forward, that was not forward. Penasini nearly put one down in the corner, and just how he even got there was amazing. If he just sort of got that down, and then, even despite everything that happened in that first half, they had a few brain farts. I think they were on the attack at one point inside the 10, and Dylan Walker got it on the last, just on his, standing on his heels. So despite, the final scoreline was terrible, don't get me wrong, I'm not giving them any excuses here, but I thought that at halftime, even though it was still 18-4, they were still in it. They had opportunities, heaps of opportunities to sort of be in that game. Had they have scored one of those tries, they were right in it. But you can't give Melbourne cheap ball opportunities and still expect to be in the game with them. And they ended up running downhill in that second half, as it turned out. Your middles looked pretty ordinary by the end of it. And Harry ran and Mark Sewell was running downhill by the end as well. So they got a bit to work on. The first 40, they could have polished up a little bit, but they were still in it. But yeah, they got to try and find that cliche 80-minute performance. And it doesn't get... the Broncos weren't amazing either, but you're coming up against the defending premiers next week, which we'll get to at some point. But yeah, that was a surprise to me on a Rilesy coached footy team. And mate, I tipped the Eels to beat the Storm, and plenty of people did. But yeah, be wary of writing off the Storm as well. But I think Eels hopefully take a lot out of that from round one, mate, and be very interested to see how they respond in round two.
The worry for me is three of the worst players on the field, I feel like, were three of the new recruits for the Eels, and that's never a great thing. You want your recruits coming in and making an impact and playing well. I'm going to give Pezzett a little bit of a leave mark on this performance, just because we always say playmakers can only play as well as their forwards and can dictate. I think left side, though, Brian Kelly defensively was woeful. It's been a huge thing for him for a long time. I mentioned it, and shout out to a couple of ex-players who messaged the page and had a say on the posts that I put out, Jared Hayne was one of them. So when your idol's basically trying to give it to you when you say something. Now, I pointed out the fact that, to me, it was very noticeable on the weekend that there was no Dylan Brown. Now, I know for a fact out there, guys, the fact that Parramatta got pumped by 50 again last year. Go back and look at the lineup, though, which I did before I even made the post. The last year's Parra lineup would have got beat by almost 30 or 40 to this year's Parra lineup. That's how bad it was. Dylan Brown was also playing halfback as well that game. So, but what I'm talking about is throughout the whole of last year and even his career at Parramatta, Dylan Brown's been one of the best defensive playmakers in the game. He has shored up that left edge for us time and time and time again by just simply his cover defense. The amount of breaks that he's cleaned up, done a legs tackle, and there's been no try forthcoming for it, is where I'm coming at for that. So shoot from the hip, that's all well and good, but I can guarantee you now, go back and look at the amount of try saves that Dylan Brown's done at Parramatta. That's what I'm talking about. And that's something that I noticed we missed a lot on the weekend. Because Pezzett, I'm giving him a leave pass for his attack, but even defensively, he was really poor as well. And there was no cover defense and things like that. So that needs to be sure. The biggest disappointment for mine was Jack de Belin, who looked like he had run a marathon after 10 minutes and was completely out on his feet. It was just... It wasn't a great performance. And like I said, you want your star recruits and your big money recruits, I guess, to hit the ground running in round one and make a statement. And I just think from the get-go, especially in the middle, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I think the other thing with it, mate, is Pezzett and Moses seem more like, you've got two halfbacks in the side effectively. So you've got similar play styles. I don't know if Pezzett prefers to be on the right, potentially. Maybe, I don't know. He tried a couple of things that didn't come off, and he wore some shots as well. So maybe he went into his shell a bit in that sense. It was probably pretty hard coming against your old club as well. But yeah, he's certainly a great player, so I'm not going to dismiss him. But I do wonder if he doesn't pull his finger out soon, is Rilesy going to pull him and give young Lorenzo a crack? I mean, you probably can't let that ferment for too long. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. Lorenzo once again killed it in New South Wales Cup. I think everyone's seen the try set up as well around some highlights going around social media on the weekend. But he was sensational once again. It's only, like you said, it's only a matter of time because. And this was the pressure about doing this signing for just a year. And by reports, Pez's on decent money as well for this year. It's not like we got him for absolute biscuits or a pie and a Coke. He's on a decent wicket. But this was the pressure. It was the risk as well because I don't think he's a 5'8", but even towards the back end of last year, I think Papali was starting to make some decent decisions and was playing some decent footy. And then obviously Lorenzo's there. And Lorenzo, in my eyes, will be there at some point this year. You're not going to be able to keep pushing this guy away. He's a natural footy player. He has the skill. He has the running game. He has the speed. He seems beyond his years at the moment. I'm keen to see him a few more weeks playing against men in New South Wales Cup and then make some decisions there. But it's definitely one to watch. And from a halves point of view, I had a good chat with the Parra fan over the weekend about it, actually. The fact that Pezzet's naturally a halfback. That is his natural position. That's what he's going to Brisbane for. I know people are already bagging that signing out, but I've got no doubt he'll do well in Brisbane playing that natural 7 role. It's going to take him, and we've seen playmakers do this in the past, when they make that transition from 6 to 7 or 7 to 6, it takes you almost like a full year to proper transition that position. So it's going to take some time. If this was the signing where he's with us for a few years, I dare say Rilesy would probably put him back to New South Wales Cup for a while just to get him used to how a 6 plays in that running game and things like that. But we don't have the time. It's about getting the wins up on the board now and seeing what happens. But anyway, another team that has some potential halves issues here, which is crazy to see. And I know, guys, a lot of you will come in the comments and say, it's round 1, chill out. We've got to talk about some stuff here. It's an NRL podcast, so talking points will come of this. The Roosters' slow start once again, but I guess the talking point that will come out of this over the next few days on a lot of podcasts and NRL 360 and the like will be around these halves combination. And I don't want to criticise them because I don't think they had horrendous games at all. But what I'd noticed a lot here, Brent, I don't know if you agree with me with this game, but I noticed both were extremely hesitant. and I didn't like that. It looked like they both didn't want to step on each other's shoes, and there was like too much respect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I noticed similar. It wasn't smooth from the get-go, and I don't know if that was because they haven't had an opportunity to run that combo enough together yet. It looked really clunky at times, and yes, they were dangerous at times, and you can't take anything away from the Warriors either. The Warriors were probably one of the performers of the round. That's probably easily the biggest upset of the round, I would say. So yeah, it was some question marks. They left it late. They sort of came back at them, but yeah, there's definitely some stuff they've got to iron out there because it was very clunky at times. I totally agree with you. It was very different to some of that trial form that we saw as well. So
it's like they had a lot of those moments where they're like, "No, you go, no, you go, no, you go," type thing. It was just very uncomfortable to watch.
And I guess you've got a situation, I don't know, potentially there you've got two dominant playmakers, chief playmakers, whatever you want to call them. You've got Teddy as well. Is there too many chefs in the kitchen in some respects? I don't know, probably not, because you look at the big three in Melbourne, it works. It will work eventually, but potentially they just need to get some more reps under the belt. But definitely not the start I don't think many were expecting from the Chooks, and I tipped them as well. But yeah, as I said, full credit to the Wars.
Yeah, Tibbin wasn't fantastic this weekend. You mentioned him. I just want to quickly give Tedesco a bit of a rap as well, because I actually thought he actually played pretty well. He was everywhere. He was busy once again. And obviously, I don't think he'll ever get that Origin jersey back. They've moved on, but his form hasn't really dipped at all. He came out, and there was question marks about that, the whole fact that there's three basically big chiefs there at that club, and they all want the ball and the like. But I actually thought out of all three of them, Teddy was the one that actually seemed to fit in the best when it came to everything and worked in nicely. It was just, a lot of clunkiness, which didn't help, but it was good. Teddy hasn't lost anything still. He's right up there on the top of his game.
Probably favourite for the Dally M, Jolie, especially if he doesn't get that sky blue jersey back. I think it's just, what a player. So consistent, huge motor in everything. He's going to go down as one of the greats. And yeah, he was awesome. The only other thing I'd say on the Chooks was they got absolutely driven by that ref as well. There was a number of poor performances from referees, and I think that played a factor. But yeah, it's just like that. As we said, you're just going to have to get over the shit refereeing because it's going to be something we'll talk about every game otherwise. But yeah, it's certainly going to be very interesting to see how the boys in Bondi turn it around. I think they have Souths this week, mate. So should be an absolute belter, and I'm sure they'll turn up for that one, obviously, as well.
And there's potentially an argument to be made that they probably were looking ahead at this game as well. We have seen this over the times where some teams might have that big rivalry game coming up and they're just not quite there where they should be that game before. And then all of a sudden they pick up and they're a completely different team in the next week. But to be fair, they're coming up against a red-hot South Sydney side who weren't at their best this today, and we'll talk about them shortly, but they were just scoring points at will. Wars fans, I know you're very passionate. We're not going to skip through you guys. Just the fact that it is a busy podcast, there's plenty to talk about. I'm sure during the week there is things that we will get to you guys and talk to you about. But Brent already said it as well, and I'll back it up. Fantastic performance. You look extremely good. Tana Boy was fantastic, and the fact he's made our top three should suggest to you now that what a performance that he did, and even players like Chance, who I continually question it. Fullback just had another one of those games where you sit back and go, oh, I can get why they're continuing on with him at fullback for now, even though I still would just love to see Tuapiki get that spot just from the excitement factor. From a team that actually struggled to a team that looked like they're just going to hit the ground running, and they're, for mine, the competition favourites. I know we watched the Storm carve up a very disappointing Parramatta side. Penrith, for mine, Brent, just set a standard, and they just came out and just, ever since Cleary got off that suspension and Cleary rocked up with Dad, you just knew something was happening. You just knew deep down in your bones that the Penrith Panthers meant business from the get-go this year. They don't want to let the pack go and have to chase it and do anything. They want to time their run like they normally do. They want to be up towards the top. Around Origin, let a few players rest a bit extra than what they probably should be. Make sure they're really fit and firing for the run home. I know the Broncos, we can talk about the Broncos quickly after this, but I know the Broncos weren't quite themselves, but I think a lot of that, and I put a video out about this, I'd love to get your thoughts on it. I think a lot of it, and we are very guilty of this as a community, we're very quick to say, oh yeah, Panthers were good, but you know what, Broncos were shit. They were just whatever. Like, no, hang on a second. What I watched a lot on the weekend was the fact that Penrith were up in their face time and time, set after set. Payne Haas hardly got any time to move. He had basically two guys on him as soon as he caught the ball. Reece Walsh had 3 or 4 people on him almost every time he had the ball. And then the likes of their outside backs, they were defended nicely. They made a few little half breaks and the like, but the cover defense from Penrith and Edwards' clean-up work was just fantastic. So, yeah, the Broncos weren't at their pinnacle best, but Penrith Panthers, for mine, didn't allow them to.
Absolutely. Statement made. As you said, Jolie, I think coming up against the defending premiers up at their home to then hold them to a donut. And we all know how flashy and brilliant they were with the ball last year, the Broncos. So super impressive from Penrith to start. I think, both teams obviously have a lot to work on, Jolie. There was plenty of errors made by both, including the Panthers. But the thing that stood out was that defensive performance, and that is the Penrith team that we have come to know and why they won 4 comps in a row. That defensive structure and the way they go about their defensive approach is the reason why they've been the reigning 4-time premiers prior to last year, and they were very close to making 6 straight grand finals if it wasn't for some Reece Walsh brilliance, to be honest, and an array shot from the sideline. But yeah, mate, they constricted them.
I can't get over that.
Yeah,
I can't get over the fact that the last, like you said, 6 years, the lowest they've finished a year is the prelim final. That's insane.
5 minutes away from making 6 straight grand finals. So, man, they didn't in the end, as we all know. But that was the thing. And the one thing that I found really interesting, and I'll be very interesting to see, was Walsh was essentially completely nullified. Like, we all know he's a superstar, right? You give that kid the ball, his ability to make that first 5 or 10 meters and put pressure on his, like, a 3-man defender is unmatched. Like, that's where the Broncos are scary. Walsh is, like, essentially untouchable, but they really nullified him. And the cover defense, like, there was plenty of times that there was a bit of pressure put on their center or their back rower, but they never, just the way their ability for that cover defense was impressive. The one thing I guess I wonder is like, they looked like they were ready to, they've been playing all season. Are we going to see a peak too early scenario with the Panthers? Is this sustainable for them? Because they were just defensively unreal. There's plenty to work on attacking-wise, don't get me wrong. But, Ivan's got the boys fit and humming, and they look good. And, Dill Edwards was an absolute standout, mate. So, really good things for the Riff. And, plenty for Broncos fans to sort of be keen to look into next week, again, against your blokes who are also going to have to show up. You never want to come up against a team that's conceded 50 either, then always a walk in the park. So I'm really looking forward to that game. And, it was Panthers put the entire comp on notice with that defensive performance, mate.
And you never want to start the year 0-2. So there'll be 2 teams that now will be up against each other next week, which we'll talk about during the week. But that is, you don't want to start 0-2. It's not fantastic at all. And pressure starts to mount from the get-go. Just quickly, on your talk about timing and runs and peaking too early, the only thing I'm not too worried about with Penrith for this is they've done it time and time again in the past. And then last year it felt like, I think more so it's just naturally they were a tired footies team and they weren't able to go from the get-go, but they felt like they tried to do things a bit differently last year. They then had to peak a lot early, not peak, but they had to run a lot earlier than they normally do last year, and they got against the finals and they looked like they just run out of puff, unfortunately. I think this year, like I said a bit earlier, I think what we'll see from Penrith is they'll start hard. I think it wouldn't surprise me if they win the comp by around 10 to 12. I know they've got a really hard draw to start with, but just it feels like what I've seen so far. I love that back line as well that they chose on the weekend. I know it meant Tungo was the one to miss out, but it just looks stronger. It looks younger. It looks faster. It just looks more athletic. It's been probably one of their Achilles heel over the last few years, maybe that back line to a touch, especially when Crichton left. But I love what we're seeing now. So I don't think so. Could be wrong, though. We don't know. But I just think that origin period, we'll start seeing the likes of Cleary, Yo, maybe have that extra week or so off whenever required. And they'll be happy to because they'll be sitting at the top of the ladder. They'll go, look, I'm happy to have that extra loss if it happens, if it means in the long run for this competition, we're going to have Yo, Cleary, To'o, those guys fit.
And I think, mate, if you said to any Panthers fan, any player, any coach, like, would you rather start the year 10-0 or how they did last year? They're going start the year 10-0 every day of the week.
Yeah.
It's not even a question, right? That they struggled to start the year last year and they still ended up finishing with a wet sail. But yeah, absolutely. I think the only other thing I want to shout out from that game, Jolly, was he wasn't super involved, but I was just really impressed with Blaze Talangi. He just looks like he's matured. Like last year, first year at the club, still, huge. You've just been paired up with arguably one of the greatest halfbacks of all time, potentially once it's all said and done. It's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders to slot into that system. I thought he showed great poise and he had some really good moments in terms of, like, he didn't overplay his hand, which I thought he did at times last year. So, if he comes on, like, he's a great player, as you would know, coming out of that. He was at Parra and unfortunately we weren't able to hold on to him, which was a real shame for Parra. But and I'm a huge Blaze fan and really excited to see that kid this year, Jolly.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I think he looks and he got a little bit of a little bit more growth on his hair, like that little natural.
The boof. It was a boof.
There's something about him. I'm feeling him hard this year. Talking point that's going to ramp up. It already has been this, which I just think is crazy. This Madge talk. What's happened? Because I don't know if I've forgotten, but he won the comp. Like, what are we now? 6 months ago, he won the freaking competition. And we're sitting here talking as if, or media are starting to talk, about he's effectively going to be like, it feels like he's going to be sacked. It feels like the people are whinging about his training methods and things like that. Hello, whatever training methods are involved. We heard it all this time last year. Guess what's happened? Yes, it was tough, but guess what it allows you to do? It allows you to be probably the fittest team in the competition. And what does that mean at the back end of the year? You're going to win the comp or go close to it. You're going to be able to, like you did last year, play for the full 80, which a lot of teams by the end of the year fall away with because they've just been up for so long. And off you go. You're one of the competition favourites. I don't get how Madge can be under this much pressure. We're in round one. Like, Brent, I don't know what universe I'm living in. I don't know where you are either, but surely this talk is just ludicrous.
I'll tell you one thing, mate. If Madge's job is under any sort of pressure or he's under fire, no coach is safe.
No.
He's one of the most decorated coaches we've got. He's achieved nearly, I think he's done everything in the game that you could do as a coach, essentially. He's won it in Super League, he's won Origins, he's coached New Zealand to titles. So, I mean, it just... Obviously, I've never played NRL, Joel, and I'm assuming you haven't either. So I would love to know what goes on behind closed doors in a club in terms of, like, how much politics is there around this sort of thing? Is there a rat amongst the ranks? Is it local media trying to stir up a bit of shit because there's some personalities or ex-players there? You know what I mean? There's so many potential dynamics to this that it's speculation, but it'll cause some issues if they don't start to get results on the board as well. And they've now started the first game of the year. It's only round one, so let's not panic or anything like that. And they come up against the red-hot Panthers side. But, yeah, it's a funny one. I don't know where that noise is coming from, but it's bizarre for mine as well, mate. As I said, if he's under fire, no coach is safe. Apart from maybe Bellamy and Bennett.
So one coach that is extremely safe at the moment, that's Ricky Stewart. Ethan Sanders, take a bow. Honestly, what a performance. And there's a few aspects to this performance. I think, firstly, obviously, this field goal attempt, which just looked so like he just was at training and goes, just pass the ball. I just want to have a little hit. It's all well and good. Firstly, sorry, Manly, who were actually pretty good for a lot of this game. They fell away in the mid part and it hurt them. But what were you doing in terms of where was the pressure? It was the last tackle, and there was just no kick pressure on this field goal whatsoever. Now that's the little side piece to this. Ethan Sanders is a young playmaker. I want people to understand that he's played 5 first grade games now. This was his 6th, I think it was. I think he's still I think there was some talk. I think you raised a question in one of the chats about him being eligible for Rookie of the Year. That is the case this year, isn't it? He is eligible.
Yeah, so that was his fifth NRL game on the weekend.
Yeah, so eligible. Now, they got away to the worst start possible. I think it was, I made the notes here. It was, what was the time? They didn't get the ball until basically, so that their first touch of the ball was 10 minutes in. They didn't get into Manly's half for an attacking. I use attacking because their first one was like on their 40-metre line until the 20-minute mark. They were literally camped on their own end. Manly shot out to a 14-0 lead in the pissing down rain at Brookie. The Raiders were extremely undisciplined. Nothing was going their way. All of a sudden, after all that, Sanders has the capabilities in his brain, really. Like this is huge for someone his age to turn around, get the troops back in order. I'm sure that the leaders at that club did the same thing, like Hudson Young, Tarpney, and the like. But to be able to be on the field, the leader, the conductor, and to steer him then to this victory in the end, after having that start to your first game of the year, you're up against your predecessor as well, Fogarty, who started the game on fire, who looked fantastic. We could sit here right now after a Raiders got beaten and just go, you know what? It just wasn't for them. Like they just got demolished. But we're sitting here saying they won the freaking ball game, man. Like every time I'm thinking about this over the last 24 hours, I sit back and I just cannot believe how good this performance was from this young gun.
Mate, I'll tell you what, if you didn't know the name before, right, take notice now because he's a superstar of the future. You nailed it, mate. The poise he showed for a 4-game going into that rookie half was unbelievable. He did not look out of place. He did not look like a 4 or 5 game rookie at all. His decision making, as I said, his poise, he's putting, dropping blokes off underneath, throwing, he looked like a 200-game vet to me, to be quite honest. He always looked like he had time. He was never under pressure, and to sum it all up, like as if he didn't, he scored a try with a nice show and go under the sticks, and then to top it all off after the entire performance, to come out and nail the field goal, and then you have a look at him, he looks like he's holding a poker hand. He had no expression. Like the kid's got ice in his veins, and he'd be a great poker player, mate. Unbelievable. I think, huge credit to the Raiders, a sticky coach side win. Hey, Jolly, like if ever that's a winning performance from a team, that's a sticky coach win. Manly, plenty to sort of go over with them, and I don't know if you want to chat about them, but one thing to be excited about, Raiders fans, is that Strange Sanders combination could be an amazing combination for years to come. And the other thing is, I thought that, if Sanders didn't perform, Kobe Black's right on his heels. So he had to play well because Kobe, we all know, or if you don't know, you should know, Kobe Black's no mug either. So I know that was a super impressive performance, and Raiders fans, you got some serious things to get excited about, mate.
I loved also the combination between Strange and Noel Martin. Pretty much an edge here that a lot of footy fans probably wouldn't know much about because both were camped in New South Wales Cup last year. And then we're fed this line during the week that, Noel Martin's not there because of injury. Noel Martin's there because he's actually earned the spot, which, to be fair with you, I didn't even buy. I thought, okay, they're covering for a Nicholson injury because of obviously his shoulder. He then plays what he played on the weekend. I'm sitting there back going, okay, he did warrant it. Like he obviously has had a huge preseason. He had a fantastic, and I think from the things I've heard, I've reached out to a few Raiders fans and guys that are quite close to the club. Apparently Sanders and Martin had a really good year last year in New South Wales Cup. They combined a lot, like similar to what they did the other night. This was like the norm for them. So I feel like the fact that Sanders is now there may have helped Noel Martin's pick as well because they've just built that natural combination over the last 12 months. And combinations are huge, especially early on in the season when people are getting used to things. If you can have 2, 3, 4 people on an edge where they've got a good combination from the start, you're ahead by some way, really. Like you're coming up against edges like where Manly had Fogarty just coming into things. These two work together for a while now, and I think we've seen that. So really big, bright sparks. And like you said as well, Brent, when it came to this combination in the halves, I like the fact that Strange put his ego away towards the end because it looked like he was setting up for the field goal, but apparently it was just a small over call by Strange, and he literally just said, take it, please. Go ahead. I like that. So it's some really good early marks here for the Raiders.
Yeah, that puts some hairs on the chest of some of those young blokes, that performance. That Noel Martin, 20 years old, if he's 20, dead set. I'll tell you what, there's something in the water. He looks like he's at least 30. And what a
Canberra
haircut.
milk, mate. That Canberra milk.
Can I say, what an absolute beauty of a haircut. I mean, if you didn't like the stats, you can't get, he's a rugby league player if ever I've seen one. But yeah, and that try he scored, they were under the pump and he had a little bit to do. He just got that ball down and he brought them back into that game with that try. There was not much doing. They finally got down there and got a bit of ball and whatnot. But he just said, give me the ball and I'll do it myself. And super impressive performance. And as it turns out now, with Nicholson, I think, further aggravating his shoulder, it's funny how things happen, right? And he's now going to put some hard decisions across stick. We were sort of thinking, Nicholson will walk straight back in, or this kid's just filling a gap, as you said. But bloody hell, if that's anything to go. I think he made nearly 50 tackles as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, super impressive performance. And, yeah, a lot of young guys to get really excited about in that Canberra team. And, yeah, the way Ricky's coaching style is if you're not earning the jersey, you're not getting it. And, that's why we're going to see performances like we're seeing from these young boats is they finally get their crack and they're taking it with two hands because they don't know if they'll ever get it again. And he was a prime example of that.
And I had a complete mind blank of what I was about to say just then. I've never had a break. I'm just absolutely rooted. But yeah, I've had a complete mind blank by. Let's just move on there. That's fine. South Sydney, mate. I want to ask about. I know we know about this left edge by South Sydney, and I think everyone listening and watching and rugby league fans know how good this left edge is. But I was so impressed today about the fact that they didn't overload that. They went there a number of times, no doubt about it. That's just what South Sydney are known for. But so they went out of their way today to make sure the right was getting extremely quality ball and a fair bit of it. And it just made me remember about, there's been all this talk in the Supercoach world and the like as well about get your left edge South Sydney players on. All of a sudden, this right edge steps up and goes, hey, don't forget about us. And, mate, if you're coming up against the Bunnies now, you need to be set, not just your right edge in defence, but your left edge in defence now as well needs to be right on the money because you are going to be copying it from every angle.
Well, the one thing about that right edge, I reckon, is what you had. Obviously, Jack Whiten and Campbell Graham is the centre wing pairing for that particular game, Jolie. And whether it's Aiken or Duncan, defensively, we talk about all the really good left edges attacking-wise. Like, they're going to have a really strong defensive right edge with Jack Whiten, Campbell Graham, and then, as I said, whether you put Aiken or Duncan in there, you've obviously got your half there, which was Ward, which ended up being Bud Sullivan, which, they're going to get targeted. Halves are always getting targeted. It doesn't matter, but they are little halves. But yeah, that was super impressive. I must admit, I didn't catch all of that one. I was off at puppy school, as you would know. That was an experience, first time there doing that. But yeah, what I did see was super impressive from the Bunnies, and I think a lot of that we expected to see a lot of ball go down that left side. But it sounds like teams are going to have plenty of headaches on both sides, as you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I was very impressed with what I've seen from Latrell Mitchell and Cody Walker. I sort of said in the preseason, a few videos there, I was a little bit nervous about what they are like mentality-wise at the moment, headspace-wise, when it comes to something doesn't go their way. They seem to just throw the toys out of the cot. I know today was a bit different. They were a lot on the front foot a fair bit. They were playing some good attacking footy. In the majority of the game, they had at least a nice lead to their name, so it made things probably a little bit easier. Latrell was very physical still, but that's just Latrell. I don't want to change that. Cody looked free. Cody looked fit. And it was just I know they took him off towards the end to just make sure he was there, but he looked ready to go, mate. He's trying all these little trick plays again and the like for, what was it, Latrell? And what was it, 2 or 3 tries he got in the end? But just every time he touched the ball, I love this centre play for him. I think centre for him is just the position for Latrell Mitchell. And what I say by that is he can do a lot of this stuff at fullback. There is no doubt about it. He's a fullback, Latrell Mitchell, in different aspects of his game, but he is now a top quality, world-class centre. South Sydney are going to reap the benefits of this because then off the back of both Cody Walker and Latrell doing what they did, Jai Gray, the little master, was able to just do what he does best. And it just makes this South Sydney team just looks really, really good.
Mate, absolutely. I think I was always a bit worried about Cody's body, sort of letting him down a bit. We all did, and I think if he's fit, like if he's actually got his body right, which for a 35, 36-year-old, it's probably never right. Look at A-Rays, you know what I mean? But if they can get 20 plus games out of him, good luck stopping the Rabbitohs, because that left edge, oh my god, did Fafita and Latrell, whilst they're not in everything, I think Fafita at times and even Trell, they're guilty of being a little bit that lazy. They don't go looking for it enough, but they showed some glimpses today. Those boys, if they start believing they can win a comp, or the sky's the limit. They're going to absolutely terrorize some right edges. And they showed some really nice things today, and a couple of them just sort of fell over the line in open space. They weren't doing too much. Fifi went through and put AJ in as well. Trell was on. Like, they're going to be a scary team. The other thing I think was, I didn't really expect it, and there was plenty of noise with Hooker at South during the preseason, obviously with Cheese going down, and he was expected for big things, and then Mamazoulis, but mate, Bronson Garlic was a super. Bronson was it? Garlic was super impressive. He even went through at one point and put Jai under the post. Like, he's an awesome player too. He obviously spent a lot of time in that Melbourne system, didn't really get much of an opportunity, but he's another guy that, as I said, he's come out of a great system and he's got an opportunity now. And I don't know if we realise how good potentially he is as well, but he was brilliant as well. So yeah, they got plenty of strike across the park. Murray was awesome. Colo was huge. I think at halftime, Colo had nearly 200, I think it was 170, 180 run meters. Muzz was just humming as he does. Like, they're going to be a really headachy side. I think the only caveat to that, I say, Joel, is they did concede 30 points. The Finns have got points in them. It was a wet track. 70 points scored in the game. They're going to have to tighten up that D, but they're the type of team, it's like, well, you score 30, we'll score 40.
Which is at the moment for mine. I don't think either team. I think both teams will have some a good year, but while this edge defense for both teams they've been guilty of it for a while now. This is like in their DNA of both sides, and I know South had the excuse, both teams had the excuse last year of quite an injury riddled run. It needs to be fixed, and this wasn't the best start, I guess, to that. It is only round one, a wet track, a lot of slippery guys out there, but it is definitely an aspect that they need to fix moving forward. But I'm sure they will. So anyway, I think that's everything for tonight, Brent. I think we are done and dusted. So, guys, just a quick one. Obviously, if you've listened to the whole podcast, you've stayed around. Really do appreciate it. Just I guess a promise to you guys out there. Obviously, there has been some changes, and I, for one, I hate changes. I know from a personal point of view, I absolutely hate it. It freaks me out. It stresses me out. My anxiety goes through the roof on a personal level whenever changes happen. It's just not me. It's not what I do. But we promise you now that we'll continue on and we'll continue to give you the best content possible, whether it's podcast or on the page. Please continue to support the page. It really does mean a lot to everyone that's still around doing it. It means a lot to myself as well. Like, subscribe, add some comments in. Please be part of it. I really want to get back to being involved a lot more on the social media pages as well, interacting with you guys in comments across Facebook and Instagram, which I'll be doing as well. So just keep it up. Love the support so far. The numbers through social media going through the roof at the moment with the interactions and engagement and everything. It's been fantastic to see. But thank you to, as well, Brent, who is around and really filled a huge gaping hole. So I really do appreciate it, Brent. I'm keen to work with you moving forward, see what we can achieve. And going off the comments over the last couple of weeks, I'm very, very excited. There's plenty planned as well for this year just alone with some events and stuff like that. So really cool time to be part of things and happy to see what we can do moving forward, Brent.
Yeah, mate, I'll just start off by saying I think out of the crew you've still got behind you, you've picked the least good-looking one. So if you've got any feedback on my looks, I'll wear it. No, I understand I'm not the best-looking thing you'll ever see in the world. But, mate, I love filling gaping holes. Sorry, that came out wrong. No, mate, look, there's been some changes, obviously. We all know that. But, super excited. The footy's back and I just enjoy sitting here and chatting footy with you, mate. So if nothing else, I'll be happy to do that all season, mate, and looking forward to it. So thanks for the opportunity.
Mate, I was shattered at the start of this one. You've helped me get through and talk some footy, which I absolutely love. And that passion sort of coming back, that fire in the eyes. So I really do appreciate it from my point of view, and I'm sure the viewers have all appreciated it as well. Like I said, guys, like, subscribe, all that jazz. It means the world to us. We will see you again during the week for the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.